Life begins when you stop trying to control everything. There comes a moment in life when forcing things only makes everything worse. You try to organize, plan, predict every step, and still nothing flows. That's when a strange feeling of misalignment appears, as if you're living a life that no longer fits. On the outside, everything seems fine, but on the inside, there's no peace, no purpose, no truth. Maybe you've been there before, or maybe you're right in the middle of the chaos now. Letting go of control can feel like failure, but holding on to everything is slowly pulling you under. And hey, race, the curious part. Many times, a true beginning only starts when we choose surrender, when we trust life more than fear, and finally listen to that persistent intuition we've been ignoring for so long. This story isn't about giving up. It's about courage, about faith, healing, and real transformation. Change doesn't happen when everything feels safe. It happens when you choose authenticity, even without guarantees. And maybe, just maybe, life is waiting for you to step aside so it can finally work in your favor. Emotional and material collapse. Emotional and material collapse doesn't happen all at once. It forms quietly, in silence. First, you ignore the signs. Then you normalize constant exhaustion, the lack of peace, and that tight feeling in your chest that never really goes away. From the outside, everything seems under control. But inside, there's already deep misalignment, like trying to keep a house standing when its foundation has already cracked. At this stage, trusting life feels impossible. The mind is too busy predicting disasters. You enter survival mode. You grip everything tightly, afraid of losing the little that's left. But the more you try to control, the further you drift from your true self. The collapse actually begins when you abandon who you are to sustain an image. And hey, race, something important, almost liberating. This collapse is not punishment. It's an invitation, a deeply uncomfortable call to look at your life honestly and admit that something must change. It's not rock bottom yet, but it's a clear warning that continuing like this is no longer an option. And when that realization arrives, even when it hurts, it creates space for the next step. Feeling at the edge, with nothing left to lose. There comes a point when the pain stops increasing. It stabilizes. It's strange, almost frightening, because you realize you're already at your limit, and yet you're still standing. The feeling of having nothing left to lose removes the fear of judgment and exposes an uncomfortable truth. The way things are now can't continue. This kind of clarity is born only in chaos. When everything feels lost, letting go of control stops being a beautiful idea and becomes a necessity. You understand, even without being able to explain it, that insisting on the same strategies will only deepen the hole. Rock bottom starts to feel less threatening than pretending everything is fine. And paradoxically, that brings a thin thread of relief. If you recognize yourself here, try something simple and powerful. Stop making big decisions. Focus only on the next possible step. Eat a little better today. Go to bed a little earlier. Say no to something that drains you. This edge state isn't the end. It's a silent transition. Something inside you already knows that a change is about to be demanded. Reaching rock bottom. Reaching rock bottom isn't about suddenly falling. It's realizing there's no emotional ground left. It's when pride gets tired, masks fall away, and the question shifts from how do I avoid this to what is this life trying to show me? At this point, pain stops being just suffering and starts becoming a message. Strangely, rock bottom brings rare clarity. Without energy to sustain illusions, authenticity shows up without asking permission. You stop negotiating with what hurts you. You see the misalignment more honestly. It's uncomfortable, yes, but also liberating, because truth finally becomes stronger than fear. Hey race, a practical suggestion. Instead of fighting rock bottom, observe it. Write down what has died in your life and what no longer makes sense to carry forward. This simple exercise prepares the ground for transformation. Rock bottom is not a home. It's a turning point, and something inside you is already asking to move forward. Why the false life must collapse for the real one to begin. There's a hard but freeing truth. The false life must collapse for the real life to be born. What was built to please others, prove worth, or meet external expectations cannot sustain the soul for long. When that structure falls, it hurts, but it also reveals who you are without the weight of performance. At this stage, it becomes clear. The collapse was never the problem. It was the process. You realize you didn't lose anything essential, only roles that no longer match your essence. Authenticity becomes more valuable than approval. Faith stops being a concept and becomes a daily practice, even without clear answers. If you want to apply this practically, notice where you're still performing. Ask yourself, does this bring me peace or just validation? Books like The Courage to be Disliked help dismantle this false life logic. Nothing is fully clear yet, but something important has already been released. Misalignment with your own life. Misalignment doesn't show up as a scream. It appears as constant discomfort. You feel tired, irritated, empty, even when everything looks right. The routine works. People approve, but inside something doesn't fit. And when the soul doesn't fit the life you're living, it hurts. At this stage, the lack of peace is not weakness. It's a signal. Intuition tries to warn you, but logic, fear, and expectation silence it. You try to adjust details, change habits, think positively. Nothing works because the problem isn't how you're walking. It's the entire path. A powerful practice here is reviewing your week and marking what drains you versus what nourishes you. Not to change everything now, but to see honestly. This recognition is an act of courage and the beginning of real alignment. Being in places, jobs, and relationships that aren't for you. Being where you don't belong always has an invisible cost. It's not dramatic suffering. It's daily. We're like wearing tight shoes and pretending everything is fine. The soul knows it doesn't belong, but the mind stays out of fear of starting over. When you remain where you don't fit, you begin to shrink. You downsize dreams, silence opinions, trade authenticity for acceptance. Wanting more isn't ingratitude. It's honesty. A simple exercise helps clarify this. In each area of your life, ask, would I choose this again today? If the answer is no, something needs attention with kindness and courage. Lack of peace as a sign something is wrong. Lack of peace is one of the most ignored and most honest signals life gives us. You wake up tired. Your body feels heavy. Your mind won't quiet down. Nothing seems bad enough to justify change, but together, everything drains you. When you observe this absence of peace without judgment, patterns emerge. Places that drain you. Conversations that exhaust you. Decisions that look right only on paper. Intuition speaks through discomfort. Ignoring it comes at a high emotional cost. Peace is not weakness. It's direction. Living under family and society's expectations. Living under expectations feels safe at first. You follow the script. Check the boxes. Do what you're supposed to do. Slowly, life fills with duties and empties of meaning. You're applauded, but misalignment grows inside. Decisions pass through what will they think. Before does this make sense to me? Authenticity is postponed. Peace becomes rare, a revealing exercise. Write 2 list choices made to please others and choices you'd make if no one had an opinion. The difference shows where you stopped trusting life and started trusting validation. The first major break. The first major break is never comfortable, but it's necessary. It happens when you can no longer pretend everything is fine. Something breaks inside, not from weakness, but from excess. Excess compromise, excess silence, excess denial. This break marks the beginning of real change. You start questioning everything that once felt permanent. It's not clarity yet. It's simply, I can't do this anymore. Allow yourself to grieve even the life you thought you'd have. Breakdowns are also seeds. Questioning choices and the future. After the break comes uncomfortable silence. You revisit old choices and see how many were made from fear, not truth. The future becomes a blank page, terrifying and full of possibility. Faith is tested here, trusting without guarantees. Instead of asking, what will I do? Ask, who do I want to be? This emptiness isn't loss. It's preparation. feeling like a failure in the eyes of society. Even while moving forward, the feeling of failure appears. Society whispers that you should be more stable, more certain. Comparison hurts because no one teaches us to measure success by peace. From the outside, it may look like regression. Inside, you know you're finally aligning. Stop explaining yourself. Not everyone will understand, and that's okay. Surrender and trust in life. After so many breaks, fighting becomes exhausting. Surrender happens not because everything is clear, but because you admit you don't know the next step. And for the first time, that doesn't feel so scary. Trusting life isn't naive optimism. It's humility. Letting go of control becomes emotional rest. A simple practice helps. I don't know, but I trust. Nothing is defined yet, but resistance ends and permission begins. Letting go of needing to know the path. Letting go of knowing the path is a profound act of faith. Control steps aside. Intuition takes the wheel. Alignment comes from coherence, not perfect plans. Ask your body, expansion or contraction, lightness or weight. You're no longer stuck, and movement creates space for unexpected signs. If you've made it this far, you may realize this isn't just about external change, but deep internal movement. Letting go of control wasn't quitting life. It was stepping aside so life could act. Now I ask you gently and honestly, where are you still trying to control because you're afraid to trust? What part of your life is asking for courage to change? And what if your current pain isn't punishment, but preparation? Life isn't happening against you. It's happening for you even when everything falls apart. The path appears as you walk, and every small step taken in truth is already an act of purpose. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay here. There's much more ahead about trust, intuition, change, and real life. The kind that begins exactly when we stop trying to control everything.